Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Must be.
Must be, yeah.
He's got an IU shirt on, so I don't know. I don't know those people.
Don't trust those guys. Ready? Here we go.
So you're gonna run? Is that what I heard?
All right, we'll go ahead and start the commissioners meeting this morning on Tuesday, February 23rd. We'll bring it to order. I want to welcome everybody this morning. We've got Junior Knapp here this morning to give prayer. Junior.
Mighty God in heaven, we thank you again for this beautiful day you've given to us, God. It is such an awesome day. Look out and see everything. Thank you, dear God, for this time when we got to share together, Lord. Pray a prayer of blessing to be upon the commissioners. Pray, Lord, as they look at each life. Lord, I pray you give them wisdom, Lord, and Lord, each one of us, Lord, that we can be supportive, Lord, and work together as a community, God. We lift our guys with that.
Amen. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, we got the minutes from the Tuesday, February 9th meeting. Have you gentlemen had a chance to look those over? Any questions or corrections?
No.
If not, I'd like to see a motion to approve.
So moved.
Got a motion by Nathan Gabhart,
Second.
second by Ron Arnold. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Morning, Phil.
Good morning. You get the highway meeting.
Yep, we got the minutes here. We did have a meeting at the highway this morning. Ron Arnold and myself were present. We discussed Aramark contract, snow removal, 900 East, Bridge 155, and Project InSafe is what was discussed this morning at the highway department.
Item B there, weather-related spending and discussions on salt supply. I don't know, I guess I'd be looking for some feedback from you guys, what you heard about our efforts to remove the snows. I will tell you, we have a $40,000 line item for salt and sand. As of right now, I believe there's about 10,000 left in that account, but our building is only got about a third of the supply left in it, so we're gonna have to refill it. I don't know if I'll probably just try to expend down to zero the 7,000, then wait for next year's budget to start filling in there, to fill it back up then. But
How much to fill it up?
how much money? Hang on a minute, I'll have to calculate it,
I
Nathan.
mean, is it
Was it prepared?
10,000, 20,000, 5,000?
Yeah, more like 30,000. So, yeah. I mean, we don't normally get it down that low. I mean, it's whenever that snow's sustained like that, it just takes a while.
Sure.
We can hold about 600 ton of pure salt. We're down to probably about 200 ton is what we have in there right now.
Is that under contract or you buy at market?
So we got quotes this year. We've done it both ways. We've participated in the state contract bid, and we've went out on our own and got our own quotes or bids for salt. Compass Materials and Cargill both quoted this year. We ended up paying, it was $81 a ton. If we had participated in the state contract, I think it was $79.50 what they were paying. But when you do that, you are locked in to 80% of your order, and it'll be coming up next month. March, they'll be asking for our quantities for next year. So now with our building down, I know I'm gonna need at least 400 ton to refill it. So I can go ahead and get and participate in that. But if my building's sitting there already full, then I'm kind of a guessing game. I mean, if we don't get any snow in the building, we don't need the 80% of the tonnage that we order, then we're in trouble.
Well, I would venture to say with the price of oil that it's gonna be more expensive, and it might be better to buy it sooner rather than later.
Yeah,
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't run out. I mean, yeah, so do whatever you need to do, keep that thing full.
okay. So you recommend I go ahead and transfer some money from somewhere else? Is that what you're?
Yeah, I'd say it transfers from somewhere else, and then if we run out of that fund, then we'll go for an additional appropriation, but let's try to spend what we have first.
Okay.
Because with this crazy weather, you know, it could
Never
be
know,
first week of
happen
April.
again. Hopefully not.
Yeah.
You guys are projecting gloom and doom here.
You know, it's by having a full sand barn, you don't get any more snow. Keep it empty, and then that's when it'll come.
You're probably right. Okay. And then that dirty word load limit, I guess I'm here to recommend ASAP, we go ahead and oppose the 10-ton load limit.
Most definitely.
Roads.
We need to. Do we need a motion for that, or probably ought to?
Yeah, yeah, you can't predict how long you think it's gonna be.
It's usually 7 to 10 days, right?
It seemed like a couple of years ago, it was a long time,
It was.
but again, it's weather permitting, I know.
Mother Nature is totally in charge. You know,
Yeah.
the quicker we get that freeze out of the ground and let that water from that snow go through that layer and back down into the subsurface,
Yeah,
better
Good,
off we're
a
gonna be.
good rain would help a bunch, tremendous.
It would.
Yeah.
A big hard rain would settle things out.
so theoretically, you'll be able to lift it before the next commissioners meeting if you deem fit.
Yes, yes.
Do you want to wait till that next meeting?
I
I think the way the ordinance is written, it's totally on me,
Okay,
but I don't operate.
I'm not saying lift it prematurely, but
I usually start calling Phil and checking with him about every time we do this, just to try to get it lifted as soon as possible, so. I
Okay.
think 7 days, we ought to at least consider looking at it then, see where we're at.
Yeah.
I look for a motion to go ahead and put the county roads on a 10-ton low limit, not counting our truck routes.
I'll make that motion.
Got a motion by Nathan Gabhart,
Second.
second by Ron Arnold, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
I would say also that you sent out notice a week or so ago letting them know that it would be coming,
Yes, I did.
so I think that was very good.
We try to look at the, extended forecast as best you can, it's a guessing game.
No, it is, and the main impact, it's obviously trash pickup in the county, so folks will just have to do the best they can, because the trash trucks won't be running, so. But anyway, it is what it is, we gotta protect those assets.
Yeah, yeah, and I do appreciate, most people understand, are very understanding that, we're trying to protect their road that leads to their business or their home. Most people understand that, and I, on our end, we definitely understand the fact that it puts a burden on them to do this, but we don't take it lightly. I'll just put it that way. As soon as we can take it off, we will, But there are haul routes in place, we have those in place. We have that posted at davies.org. So the permits to run on those haul routes, those designated routes, can be gotten online, and then they are sent to the highway department, and I sign off on those. To allow people to go ahead and operate on the roads that we've built with the frost laws in mind. I think we have about 51.38 miles of those.
And also, one thing on that, we haven't had to use it since we implemented it, which is really good, but that gravel road load limit policy, where if they bond it and we score it before and after.
Yep.
Because we were getting a lot of pushback before that of business owners on gravel roads who need to get loads in, so now they at least have a process to get loads in, but they'll have to abide by the process. And if they damage the road, they have to pay for the road, but, and since we've had that process, I haven't gotten any more calls from people needing.
So we actually did use it 2 times. There was 2
Twice.
different individuals
Good.
that bonded the road, and we scored it, and there was, at the end of the period, there was no charge to them. We
Super,
funded their check back to them, and
super.
good.
Fantastic.
All right. One more thing on that, I would ask, so we reviewed our list yesterday of the truck route roads. 200 north between 650 east and 900 east has been built, to standard since our last change to that in 2018. So I would ask you guys to allow me to include that road on that haul route list as well.
You got enough base on the road? You do have enough base under that road?
Yes, yeah, it was built with the tiling, the fabric, the rock, and then chloride, and it's got asphalt on it,
Yeah.
several inches thick as well.
I guess look for a motion to add 200 north between 650 east and 900 east to a truck route.
So moved.
Got a motion by Nathan Gabhart,
Second.
second by Ron Arnold. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
I'll make that change this afternoon and update the list. And I think by statute too, the signs have to be in place before the load limit becomes effective for the sheriff's department. They're the ones doing the enforcement on this thing, so I'd say by noon tomorrow, we should have all of our signs out. They'll start ASAP putting them out, but it'll probably be by noon tomorrow to have them all out.
Yeah.
Takes a little bit of time. There's about 150 signs or something that have to be put up, so.
Take a little while.
Okay, Aramark service agreement. We've been updating our PPE in the county at the highway department since our accident, and I know we've just recently bought a bunch of hard hats and done some things with the high vis to make sure everybody has what they need. Additional signage as well as stop slow paddles. Our mechanics in our shop currently just have it's a light blue, dark blue, upper and lower. They're the only ones that actually get their uniforms rented. Everyone else, we buy uniforms for them and then they launder them themselves, but we rent the mechanics uniforms. So I have a new agreement with Aramark. It's actually a slight decrease to get all new uniforms to go to high vis because they've dropped their price on what we were paying for our doormats. But I'd like permission from the board to sign this agreement too. I don't know how I'm supposed to do this, but like with trash and uniforms and things like that, we have, I don't know how Connor does those things. They bring it to you or not, but. The 3-year agreement, we did make them take out the auto renewal, so in 3 years it will lapse. Another agreement with them if we stay with them. I will say this, over the last 4 years, we've not received any increase from them at all. And I'll give credit to Janice, our bookkeeper. She stays on top of those. Anytime she sees an increase, she's calling the company and asking why and letting them know that, we can go get quotes somewhere else, and it works pretty well.
I don't have any problem with this. You guys don't have any problem with this Aramark contract? I guess I'll look for a motion to approve Aramark contract for the county highway garage for 3 employees
So moved.
and at like 12 floor mats. Got a motion by Nathan Gabhart,
Second.
second by Ron Arnold. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Phil, I'll just let you sign this since you're
Okay.
taking care of it.
Okay, I'll send you a copy via email. Seemed like, the bridge 155, which we discussed that at the highway, just information, but I will be coming to the next meeting with that contract. Send it to all of you, and Grant has it, hopefully reviewing it. And, I'll be doing a contract cover sheet or whatever along with that to bring for the next, put it on the agenda for next time, Patty.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you.
I appreciate you guys doing all the hard work you done. I mean, that was a Herculean task, get all that snow. That was a ton of snow in a short amount of time. And I did hear a lot of people thank you guys for how fast you guys did get the roads opened up. You guys worked over the last few years to get the equipment upgraded and more equipment to run it, so sure appreciate that. Appreciate everybody at the highway garage for keeping with it and getting it opened up. And trying to keep everybody safe.
Yeah, indeed. I think the entire county sort of got open simultaneously, so you guys were out early, worked late, so it was definitely noticed in the eastern and southern part of the county as well, so everyone appreciated the hard work.
We like to hear that. I know all of you guys have reached out to me and been bragging on our guys. We've been passing that on, but it's a testament to them and their work ethic. You know, we're still in Southern Indiana where we have a great work ethic. I think that's evident. I don't think I received one complaint from any of our employees about working over. They all realize that we got friends and neighbors out there driving on those roads, and they want to do a good job and keep them clear. So hopefully we can provide them the resources to be able to do that. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Appreciate it. All right, moving on down the agenda, we got Eric Siebert with the airport. Morning.
Copy of that.
A cover sheet, okay.
So the main thing that I am here today to ask you to just review and approve is the Airport Board of Aviation Commissioners and working with our engineering firm Woolpert out of Indianapolis, along with our 5-year CIP plan. It's now time to move into the we've submitted pre-applications for a grant from the Federal Aviation Administration. And it's part of their airport improvement program. We participate in this, you know, every grant cycle.
Right.
Every year we have some type of project going on. So the current grant, which you have the form there, which gives you a big picture, $156,000 is what the grant total from the FAA would be. Our portion out of the budget, out of our airport budget, out of our grant portion would be I believe 7,800. So those the two projects within that grant. The first project is to complete an aeronautical survey of the airport land area. The reason we're going to do that is to eventually get a GPS instrument approach from the south. Right now we have one from the north, but they have to recreate all new data, mapping data. We have now the survey markers in place. We did that last year, finished it up late last year, so that we can get an approach. Eventually, hopefully within 18 months, the FAA will approve an instrument approach from the south. Right now, that's kind of an Achilles heel for us. For any time the wind is out of the north,
Right.
it can't land with the wind, and if the cloud layer is low enough, they have to get below the cloud layer and circle the land. Most of the corporate business aircraft, they're not going to do that, so they just divert to another airport or they cancel their trip. So that's the first part of that grant. So that is actually, I believe it's 60. There are some grant summary pages in the whole document that was sent. The total for the aeronautical survey for area navigation approach is a total of 67,500. NDOT's portion of that, so the FAA pays 90%, NDOT state pays 5%, and we pay 5%. So NDOT's portion is $33.75, and our portion is $33.75. So that's the aeronautical survey portion for that project. And then the other project that we're doing is repairing the pavement between our large hangars. We call that right now B1, B2, Bravo 1, Bravo 2 taxiways. It's the oldest remaining pavement on the airport. And that grant summary page is at the very end of that document that you've got, close to the very end. This is to do the design and engineering work to replace that pavement. Total for the project is $88,500. FAA's portion $79,650, NDOT $44,25, and our portion $44,25. So we have this in our budget for 2021, something that is not just brand new. We planned this for the last few years. So just looking for the commissioner's approval to go ahead and submit the formal application for this grant. And I'll update you on one additional new grant that we're,
So Eric, on that GPS,
Yeah.
what's the timeline for that project?
the timeline for to do this work that's in the grant,
No, when do you think the GPS from the
The-
south will be done?
the new approach. So it's all a matter of when the FAA will plan us
Okay,
into their airspace division,
Uh-huh.
and they will work on that approach. So I was told by our engineer, as many as 18 months.
okay, because I mean, from the local constituents, you know, I thought some people scratch their head on our airport and is it used because they don't physically use it.
Yeah,
But 4 years ago, we had a client fly in and they had to divert at the very end.
yeah,
They had a small jet, and so they
Uh-huh.
went to Lawrenceville because of because of something.
Yeah.
And I think it was perhaps the approach.
perhaps that. There are several different factors that, we deal with, whether it's wet runway conditions,
Okay,
whether it's wind direction. In fact, we had one a few weeks ago that diverted to French Lick. They had business between here and Orange County. They were going to come here, but because of the wind direction, they were coming out of the East Coast, so they diverted to French Lick because the runway, they've got an approach on both ends, a GPS instrument approach, which means for the layperson, you can come down through the clouds and get below the cloud layer and land and see visual, at a certain altitude, see the runway. So this aircraft diverted to French Lick because the runway lined up better with the prevailing wind, and they had an approach on both ends, where we only had the approach from the north. We had I think it was an excessive crosswind.
okay,
So that wet runway conditions, ice, snow is always a factor,
certainly.
and runway length. Now, typically runway length, which that's a whole nother project we're dealing with, and you'll be updated on that after I think the board is going to meet again next month to discuss further on the runway extension project we'd like to pursue. That's hit some roadblocks with the FAA, so we've got to gather some more information on that. So usually the runway length is something that's determined before the operator decides to come in. They know what the runway length is, so they
Right.
just go to another neighboring airport.
Right.
So the two biggest hurdles, obviously, runway length and GPS approaches, or
Okay.
instrument approaches.
All right, great, thank you.
Sounds good.
There's no question that the airport's a huge asset to Davis
Oh, yeah.
County, and we wouldn't have some of the businesses we have if not for the airport.
I think we've worked with the airport quite a bit since I've been on as commissioner, trying to help things along and try to extend that runway too, length too.
Yeah.
We've worked on that for a while now.
For a while, yeah.
So-
There's always roadblocks in the path.
Yeah.
We're trying to work through those, so.
Last year we got the road rerouted around there and got it closed off, so,
Yeah.
we're getting closer.
Just build it and ask for forgiveness.
That, believe it or not, we have discussed that. The only problem with that is
We can talk off
we
the record.
would not be eligible for any type of
Yeah.
federal
Right.
funding.
I'm kidding, yeah, right.
Understood.
That's,
understood.
in fact,
There's always a catch.
Oh, yeah. All right, I've got a grant application here from the Davis County Board of Aviation in the amount of $156,000 with a match of $7,800. Looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Got a motion by Nathan Gabhart,
Second.
second by Ron Arnold, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And just one additional piece, I think it's in your packet.
It
I
is.
just received notice right before all the snow hit, so I've been a little busy with taking care of keeping the airport open, but the FAA has notified us, our airport district office, ADO out of Chicago, has notified us that the Secretary of Transportation on February 12th notified all airports they're eligible for funds under the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplement Appropriations Act. So specifically, the FAA will distribute these grants under the Airport Coronavirus Response Grant Program. So what it boils down to is, last year the airport received $30,000 from the CARES Act for basically, let's call it lost revenue. So to cover operations, any excessive expenses from coronavirus mitigation. So this is almost the exact same conditions, just another round. So our portion is 13,000 this time that they've said that where this airport is eligible for. I have an a form that I have to submit back to the ADO saying that yes, we are willing to accept these funds. There's a few processes that we have to work through internally, but I wanted to notify you all now because our board will approve this, or they'll discuss it, and assuming they approve it, then we'll send you another form probably after their board meeting in March.
Okay.
So
You don't need any action today?
I
on this?
don't think there's any action needed on this one, just until I get the actual form, because we've not signed a grant application. There's nothing like that yet.
Yeah, okay.
Just notification that it is coming.
I appreciate that.
That's all that I have, and unless you guys got any other questions.
I don't have anything. You guys have anything
No,
else?
Thanks for doing what you're doing out there.
Yep.
And
Keep it up.
we'll have more information coming forth on all the other projects.
Sounds good. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, Paul Williams. Morning. Got the renewal quote.
I'd sent it out in the packet, but
Got it.
it's actually, yeah.
It was easier to read it off there. Yeah.
I'm gonna talk fairly fast. Feel free to stop me and ask a question as we go through this process, but this is for the package renewal. And a little bit of a tough year. When I'm out shopping, of course, I'm an independent agent, so I shop with many different carriers. But we had a few losses on electric hit the jail. We had to replace the air conditioner. You know, that was kind of expensive. We hit a deer, and that was kind of expensive. And we've got some, in which Grant knows, we've got several lawsuits going on. We think they're frivolous. We don't see anything that's going to happen with it, but yet we have to defend them, and we have to, you know, you never know what's going on. So it's kind of one of the tough years that we first negotiating rates. If you look across this first page here, you can see 19 with HCC was 179, 184. Now, the 209 does incorporate the fact that we added the annex, and so it really would have made it about 200. And if you'll see down below, originally it was 220. I'm going to show you as we go through here real quick. That's why I didn't come last meeting. I had that at the last meeting, but I wanted to continue negotiating to see if I could get it down from that number. And so with a couple other carriers that I had out there, I kind of threatened them saying, hey, I've got a better deal, which I didn't. But anyway, they didn't know that, so they came down.
You're on video now.
So thank God we had a prayer session this morning.
Might need another one after this.
Anyway, they did not want to lose the county, and so they did come down a little over 10,000 to maintain it. So we were at 209. So flip over, and I'll get back to this here in a little bit. Here's some options. The cyber has gone up. I've been in contact with Dale, and he's filled out probably 20 pages of information on cyber and technology and all that. But over the last couple of years, it's been running around $74 million. It's running really, you got to take the cyber deception. So basically, it's running around 99. Cyber, we've actually had cyber hits, and you probably know of people who have been hit by cyber this year. So we are getting claims in the cyber arena. So it's important coverage that we need to keep, and I did, again, check with other carriers. They'll help me on some information. The other one was that, is definitely an option, is the earthquake. It includes 5,000s in the package, and last couple years, we've increased it to 10 million. In the package, it doesn't make any sense, but it's 10,000 to increase it by 5 million to make 10. 5 million is part of the package. And I asked them, I said, well, if the county decides not to have earthquake, how much are we gonna save? They said $1,400. I go, so the first 5 million is 1,400, and your second 5 million is 10,000? Or we can take the Lloyd's, as you can see prior, Lloyd's is 5 million, was 63, 68, and it'd be 8,000. But they only give us a 6-month. Basically what they did, they're so far behind on quoting, they said, we'll just extend your current for 6 months at the same price of, so it'd be 4,000. Because of the annex and additional building, it's now more for the earthquake. That's an option. I mean, that's something that you can be thinking about as I erase through this other information. Terrorism, again, is another option. You have purchased it over the last couple of years. It's gone up a little bit as well. So those are two of the basic options that you would have as the earthquake and the terrorism.
Is terrorism, is that just strictly liability only, or what is that? I mean, what does it actually cover?
No, it's, it could be buildings as well.
Okay.
And it is now domestic terrorism. It used to be foreign terrorism, but it is domestic terrorism as well.
Okay.
If they did that. So the next page, I just kind of reiterated that we have the government center on there for 6.2 that's included this year that wasn't part of last year. The Old National Bank, they made us increase it from 357 to 784. And then there's inflation on the remaining buildings to another 155. So actually, we increased our property by 6.8 million. So that's part of the reason of that increase. Added a couple employees, and then there's equipment on there as well. As a reference, what I did was, you see this reference sheet, go to the next one, just to give you an idea. Several years ago, HCC was not competitive. Again, as an admitted agent, I don't care which company we go with, whoever gives the best deal for the county, that's what I'm all for. We went to One Beacon several years ago, and then they all of a sudden started raising their rates, and they had a renewal of, they had 206 over there, and so HCC got more competitive when we switched back to HCC. And when I did switch back to HCC, I got a 3-year rate guarantee. So for the 3 years there, now the premium went up a little bit because if you added and deleted, but the rates were guaranteed for 3 years. So I locked that in. We don't have that this year because we may not want it.
Yeah.
So anyway, just to show you that over the last 3 years, really we've had the rates were the same. And you might look at this page real quick. The only reason I shook that page in there is just to solidify my conversation here. It shows down there, 3rd annual installment. So that was just, I'm just showing you where I did have the 3-year rate guarantee locked in. That's all that page is, basically. I know you believe me, but I like to lie my. The next page, you can see where the big X is. With me? And the only reason I showed you this is I did have a quote on February 2nd, and I could have brought that to the meeting, and that was the 220. So I kept negotiating with the company, and then real quick, feel free to stop me anytime, I'm just kind of flying through this. On the next page, see February 18th, and it says HCC Public Risk Indiana, quote date February 18th. And now that's the one where I got it down to the 209. So I just wanted to point out a few things on this quote. Again, you have $1 million over all the coverages. A couple things I want to point out is the pesticide, herbicide, that got increased. You can see there where the nurses professional, which has been a big issue right now. They do have, they are covered in the county for $1 million. The levies in here, as you can see, that it's covered now, which at one time it was not, and we need to keep that as a covered item, which we've all seen. So the levy is showing right there, health department. And then, again, go to the next page. The important part there where it says excess liability, you have a $4 million limit on top of all these other coverages. So when you go back and look at all the other coverages for $1 million, each line is $5 million. And that's the maximum that a county can be sued. So we've met the protection for the county as far as the limit that could potentially be reached. Right, Grant? All right, so down to the property, just a couple items I wanted to break out. We do all on a blanket basis, so if we do underestimate a building and it gets destroyed and we have it insured for $200,000 and it costs $250 to replace, we give you the $250 because it's on a blanket. We blanket the whole county's policy, so every building should be adequately insured. You can see we got the dogs covered. Back to the next page. You got expediting expense. The reason I pointed that out is because like when the air conditioner unit got destroyed, that sometimes it costs a lot of money to get stuff shipped overnight or immediately. We do have extra coverage in case we need expediting, but some things need to be done right away. There's the earthquake coverage that's automatically included in the policy. It automatically is. We got automobiles. You can see we got 102 autos, hired non-owned. Down where it says physical damage to employees, personal autos. So a lot of companies have hired non-owned, which means if you use your, let's pick on Mike. Mike uses this truck for county business and it gets in an accident on one of those county roads, we will help pay for your truck, being it was in county business, okay? That's not normal in a lot of policies. So FYI, employees have to use their vehicles for county business. We'll protect them both liability and physical damage for their usage. So that's in there. As you can see down at Inland Marine, you know, we got like $6 million in equipment. Then you get to a page with the X's. Again, I was just showing you what the original quote was. The next page does show where it is the 209 versus the 220. And I know you believe me, but I just like to belittle it. EDP is at $1 million now. If you kind of note, they're just kind of as it says annual package, and I circled it where it says failure of any dam or levee exclusion. That is part of the normal package. So I did cross it out because you can see in the first page where it does say we are including the levee. I see Tom Graham here, so you got to keep that levee up with the Corps of Engineers, because if we don't, then the exclusion applies. So that's kind of why that exclusion's in there. So hopefully that's all going to work out. Right now it's minimally, and you can probably protect. The next page is just showing the cyber, and it just shows all the coverages pertaining to the cyber. And a couple things real quick. Back to the jail. I'd just like to say, you know, Gary's been under a lot of different issues that's going on, but if you ever get a chance to look at the jail inspection, it's like 500 lines. I mean, there's a lot of questions that Gary has to fill out and address. At the very bottom of it, on the comments it says for observations, comments, and recommendations, it says this jail was very well maintained and operated as a good facility. So congratulations to Gary. I know he's going through a lot. And as an insurance company, we're having to deal with a lot with what's going on with the different COVID. So a long way around to this. I would like to recommend that we stay with HCC. They are offering the best price we have. And to me, then, the question is about the earthquake. Do you want to maintain that extra $5 million? And I would probably go, my opinion, I would go with the Lloyd 6-month extension at the $4,000 versus the 10, because even if you double that 4, no guarantee they'll come back in at 4 for the remaining 6 months. But I don't know, that would be my recommendation, is to spend 10 for the earthquake. The rest of it's pretty
So is that, is that who we're carrying now, is Lloyd then? Is you said a 6 months extension?
They were so far behind, they couldn't give us a quote, but they said they'd be willing to extend their current pricing. But they'll only guarantee for 6 months. I don't know what the next 6 month premium would be.
Right.
Have to come back.
So you're within $2,000.
Yeah.
What it is. What are you guys' thoughts on either leaving it, taking it back to 5 million or leaving it at 10? You guys have any?
It's one of those tough things, you look back, you're like earthquakes, what's the chance? And then you, and then God shows you the chance, so. My inclination would be just for a couple of $1,000 savings to do the 10,406 number, because that's for the full year.
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
you know what it is, you're guaranteed.
that way we don't have to go back to it for a couple, because it's not gonna be $39.94 in 6 months. It's probably not gonna be less than that in 6 months. So chances are you're not gonna have the full $2,000 savings. But, you know, I know when we added earthquake, we went back and forth on if we needed it, but then we were afraid if there was a crack, and then they said, well, nope, that's earthquake. We wanted to be covered all around, but,
I don't worry about this building as bad as
yeah.
the courthouse over here. I mean, the way it's constructed, all masonry, you know, earthquake could be pretty hard on that building.
Ron, what are your thoughts on it?
One of those things, you hope you never need it, but you better have it.
Agree.
You guys got any more questions for Paul on what he's presented this morning?
I think so.
All right. I guess I'll look for a motion to approve HCC for 2021 at the rate of $209,361. Is that right? With the
With the,
earthquake insurance at 10 million.
With earthquake and terrorism and
Yeah,
cyber.
and stuff, and that,
Okay.
yeah. With the earthquake at $10,406.
Does that cover it?
That cover it?
Just to say, to include earthquake, terrorism, and cyber.
Okay.
That would cover it.
To include earthquake, terrorism, and cyber on that motion.
Okay.
There you go.
Anything else, Paul?
I think that's
So moved, I'll make that motion.
Got a motion by Nathan Gabhart,
Second.
second by Ron Arnold. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Paul.
And I will put in your packet sometime next week those claims I talked about, so you can see exactly what, that I didn't really want to discuss, you know, in public on what's being out there that's happening.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Great, thanks, Paul.
All right. Barracuda purchase declaration or contract for Dale Quickenbush. Dale? Yeah, all kinds of signatures on this thing.
So we've used Barracuda to protect our email since pretty much when I got here. It's a piece of what keeps us from using Paul's cyber insurance. We are moving to Office 365. That project is underway. So currently we have appliances here on site. Well, we're moving everything to the cloud. So this is a cloud-based solution, basically the same software, plus this is total email protection. It gives us a little more defense against ransomware. It has an archiving piece, so the retention policies on our email is all handled within this. I've got budget for it for a year. The reason I come to you is I was able to, if I went with a 3-year term, I could get basically save $13,000 over 3 years. So this contract is for a lease option for 3 years to purchase at the end. 3 annual payments at 0% interest.
You got 3 annual payments of $13,905, is that right?
Yes, and I do have that budgeted.
Okay.
I just didn't have the budget for the 3 years all at once, which is an option if we wanted to do something different, you know, pay it all up front.
What's you guys' pleasure on that? You wanna pay it all up front or just pay the one
If there was
payment?
somewhere else we wanted to just pay the whole 41 up front,
So is 41 up front or 41 over 3 years?
41,000 for 3 years,
3 years,
Or
13,000.
41 today?
41 for 3 years, or 13,900 a year.
There's no cost, no savings at all?
Well, if I do the 3 year, I get to 13,000. So if I pay the 41 if I do 1 year, it ends up being around 54,000 over a 3 year period. So our options would be to go a 3 year, 0% that I could pay out of the IT budget, each year. Or if we didn't wanna mess with the lease, if we paid the 41 up front now, we would still save the 13, we just wouldn't have to deal with the lease.
Yeah, I'd say whichever, I didn't follow all of that, whichever one is the financially the cheapest is one I would go with personally.
It's gonna be the same amount of
Same,
money,
same price, just no,
whether you own it
If it's
now.
the same price, then I'd do the longest.
Yeah.
Am I making
it's
sense?
just that I don't have the 41,000 in my budget
Right.
to pay it all up front. So if we wanna do it that
Yeah.
way,
But what you're saying though, we
not
can
gonna
do
cost us-
41 divided by 3,
13,905.
so you're not paying any more.
Right. 0%.
Just committing to 3 years
3
to get
years.
the price.
Perfect, yeah.
yeah, if I commit to 3 years, I save the 13,000, this is just a
I'm with you.
different option to pay for it.
Yeah. Oh, sounds good.
Yep.
All right.
But yeah, if there was somewhere else we want, or if you want me to do kinda like you was talking to Phil, I mean, I've got 41,000 in licensing, I could pay for this, and then as other things come up later, I might have to have additional.
No, if there's no savings and you just have to commit to 3 years and you can pay that same amount over 3 years, then I think that's the
Best way to
direction
go.
I would probably go.
Yeah, I think so too.
Unless you could go back and check with them, and if you pay it all up front, if there's an additional savings,
I can hit him with that before I send it to him.
and they weren't interested.
No, because originally they sent me one that had about $3,000 worth of interest on it, and I sent it back to them and told them that wasn't gonna work.
Sounds like you've done your job then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds good. You guys have
Okay,
any more
I'll
questions for
make-
Dan? Go ahead.
Do you understand the motion that he needs?
Yeah, I think it's just what he says here.
Then I'll make that.
Okay, look for, I guess the motion would be, to accept the Barracuda contract for Dale in the amount of 3 annual payments for $13,905 annually, for a total of $41,715.
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Nathan Gabhart to approve. Second. Second by Ron Arnold. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Dale. About 50 places to sign this here.
When I see all those tabs, I get a little nervous. I'm thinking, okay, what?
All right, we got the disaster emergency declaration for travel restrictions. See, Scott was here. Do we have this in our packet? Yeah. You got anything you want to speak about, Scott? We had actually made this declaration on Monday when the snow was so bad, and then we cut it back to 24 hours later to,
Yes, yes. We spoke early in the day. Commissioner Taylor and myself had spoke about possibility of implementing the travel restrictions. Later that night, he called and said it was time for it, so we placed the declaration in place, and probably less than 20 hours, we had lifted the restrictions back off because County Highway had done such a fine job of opening up the roads. But that night was a little rough to begin with when people were trying to get home, that there was some drifts that created some rescues for the fire departments and sheriff's department to go out and get people out of the drifts, and County Highway and local farmers assisted with that as well, of opening those back up so they could be removed. So I thought it was a good short-term restriction.
right. I think, see a formal motion to approve this and have you guys sign it.
I'll make that motion to approve.
I got a motion by Nathan Gabhart,
Second.
second by Ron Arnold, and all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, appreciate it. You guys sign that.
Michael,
Yeah.
I'd also mention that all county offices were closed in the county for the record, and
Okay.
then the emergency plan from our personnel policy was implemented as far as the time off.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Patty. All right, we've got the resolution expressing support for local control of land use decisions. We do have a resolution in front of us here. It's a House Bill 1381. I think you know a little bit more about that, Nathan. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, so, okay, so, from a high level, from what I understand, obviously Indiana, most states are going and adding alternative, energy sources, whether it's solar or wind. And from what whoever they are, say, we got 30 years left of coal in the country, so we gotta move over to some sort of alternative energy. Now, again, I'm getting all that just from whoever, right? So what the solar and wind energy companies are afraid of is obviously when they come in and they put in one of their fields, it's usually a pretty large area that encompasses several counties, or could, because they follow the sun or the wind. So, and dealing with each municipality is challenging because different counties want different things. So they went to the state's trying to pass the resolution 1381 that would give the state the authority to help kind of overrule the local rule of where these folks can go. So I've always been sort of neutral because I understand the overarching issue. You know, they got to do what's best for the state and what's best for the area, and then obviously I understand the local rule. So this resolution is basically just asking for support from the county commissioners that says, look, let the decision be with the county commissioners, and then if the voters don't like that decision, they can vote those county commissioners out of office. So that's kind of what the State Commissioners Association is wanting us to do. It did pass out of the Senate, or out of the House 58-38, so which was pretty close considering the margins, and then it's going to be really close in the Senate. So if anything, I'm probably 52-48, you know, against it. But I understand too that if we do run out of, we like our electricity, and
Right.
you know, and somebody at the state needs to be overlooking those type of issues regionally. And I'm not sure if future energy use is a county responsibility, because we really need that to be more regional. So I'm neutral. I'm neutral on it, and I've shared that with the board in Indianapolis. So that's where I'm at.
I'm neutral on it too. I mean, but do we want to have a little bit of say how our county's shaped too?
Well,
That's the only other.
That was their
question I've
part.
got.
You don't want it to go like I-69. We don't want a bunch of wind towers out on our I-69 corridor. So we want some local restrictions. So I'd probably be more supportive to support it, just so we can make sure that there's local involvement of some sort, so that we can at least position these things to the best part of our county.
I mean, if we get to that point and the state wants to come down and say we got a project, you know, that at least gives us an opportunity to look at the project before it just gets shoved down our throats, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Do we have any idea where the utilities stand on this, as far as the major utilities?
yeah, my guess is the major utilities are all migrating over to solar and wind, is my guess.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as this bill,
They're gonna be against this bill, is my guess, because they're not gonna wanna deal with each municipality. They're gonna wanna go to the
They're gonna be
state.
in favor of it because they're not gonna want to do it.
They're in favor of the bill. And this resolution basically would be opposing the bill, so.
Yeah.
So I'm not against alternative energy. I just would hope that the locals have some sort of
Little bit of
seat at the
say.
table.
Yeah, yeah.
If the state wants to overrule us, so be it.
That's fine. I mean, I understand, but I think we need to have a little say-so on how our county's shaped.
And Ed Soliday's pushing the bill in the House. He is a square of a guy. He's the one that pushed the gas tax several years ago. He's as square and straight of a guy as I've ever met. And he's pushing 1381 because he knows in 10, 15 years. Right now, I guess we're buying these we're buying alternative sources of energy from other states, and he just thinks we need to take more control in our own hands.
Right.
So, yeah.
Um,
So, yeah.
I'm on the fence either way.
Ron, you're the,
So,
what do you want to do?
let somebody make a motion here.
Well, first off, I don't think what we do here is gonna have much of an impact on the bill itself. I don't see any downside really being on one side or the other. They're gonna do what they're gonna do. My main concern is that if you end up with a situation to where if the state doesn't control it, then how's it regulated? If you end up with these things everywhere, we're gonna run in the same situation similar to what they had in Texas, to where you've got too much of renewables and then you have a catastrophe and you don't have the power that you need. So that's why I was wanting to know where, like, Hoosier Energy or Vectren stands on it. But, to basically, I really have no issue either with it, one way or the other. If the association wants to do it and you think it's good for them, then I have no problem with that, just to support them, but I don't think it's gonna have any impact.
Yeah, I think it's ceremonious.
I think it is too.
So I guess my inclination would be to support the state association. Obviously, we're not gonna be fighting and screaming over it, so I would support signing this resolution on behalf of IACC. And then at least we'll have a seat at the table perhaps when they do draft the final legislation that, you know, so.
Right.
So I would make a motion for us.
Okay,
to
you had a
sign.
motion by Nathan Gebhardt to sign the resolution,
I'll second it.
second by Ron Aron. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, that's what we got on the regular agenda. We do have Tom Graham here today. Tom, come on up.
I just wanted to inform you that we did get the assessment filed on time so that it'll appear on the tax duplicates for pay 21. And for Ron's benefit, the levy district, if it doesn't have enough money by statute, the county is supposed to lend us some money. And that's what we did. We put in an underground electrical system to provide a reliable source of electricity to one of our pumping stations. For example, in 2020, we had 2 lightning strikes that hit our line, and it affected Duke, and then it affected 4 days of operation on Purdue feed mill. So Duke said they wouldn't do anything until we got our line fixed. So working with engineers, we came up with a $200,000 plan to bury the lines, reduce the exposure of electrical grounding problems. So there will still be poles above ground right by the pumping station, but they'll be grounded better. So the other part of the statute was that once the bills are all known, that the levy district shall assess the landowners within the district to pay the county back. We're not quite there, but we went ahead and billed because we knew it was at least going to be 200,000. And once we get all the bills, I put on the assessment in there that we would amend the assessment to reflect the actual cost. But that won't help us for 2021. So it's all going to come out in the wash. It was the timing that was awkward. And one of the reasons I'm here today, I didn't exactly understand the process. I think the money has been appropriated, so that cuts it down, but I didn't get my files into you all prior to the meeting. And I'm gonna hand out, I've got 3 copies, just in case you can expedite it in any way. There's, of the 2, one's 133,000, and I'm rounding out. That's for buying the wire and burying the wire, tearing down the old poles, and putting in new ones where necessary. The other one is for 24,000 and change. That's payable to Duke, and they won't do the work they have to do to hook us up to their system until we pay it in advance. And that's the one I'm concerned about, because right now we're stalled.
So right now, you don't have any pumps that could run right now if you need?
Well, we do, but it's by generator,
Okay,
and the Corps doesn't like the generator.
right.
And actually, we don't either. It's more expensive. You can't pump 24 hours hardly without filling it up with fuel. So we're at risk there. But yeah, we're ready if we have a flood. We've relied on that generator, maybe 5 years now. The Corps did not make an inspection. They're supposed to make a yearly inspection. They did not make their 2020. It was scheduled for last week, but we called it off because of the snow. Nobody wanted to slide off the levee or get stuck out there. So that date hadn't been rescheduled. So now, like a lot of governmental entities, we might not see the results of that annual report or inspection for 6 months. So, Paul, I'll be sure to get it to you just in case you have to revise something. But right now, there's 3 standards: acceptable, unacceptable, and in the middle, it's called minimally acceptable. And about 67% of the levee districts in the U.S. fall in that category, of which we're one. And it's things like there wasn't enough grease on the flaps on the gates. A major one is consistent, reliable supply to run your pumps. I think we're covered mainly because we've got a good relationship with the Corps. We go to all their safety meetings whenever they have them. This year it was on Zoom, but it was still interesting. And when they're up here, run. I think you drew the short straw and got to be on our committee. I'll let you make sure you know.
Yeah, I understand that.
In case you want to go out there and ride with the Corps. We'll have a new inspector accompanied with the current inspector. So it'll take longer than normal. They've tried to allot 2 days. So I'll keep you up to date there. But I am going to pass out these just in case there's any way you could at least take care of the one to Duke Energy.
What, so if Duke won't do anything with you guys until that's paid, so how fast, what kind of schedule are you guys gonna get that thing hooked up then, if it's, we're still waiting on
Well,
the
we'll be,
payment?
if it were to rain today, we'd be using the generator. If it's,
I know, but I just
I'm
didn't know
not-
what kind of time frame Duke's,
I didn't ask the guy in charge of that,
okay,
but I do know they will not do that, and this is
At
the
all.
next phase. Then we can put the transformers on the poles or the roof, depending on how we want it, and then it's, the pump house is energized. So there's a little bit of ways to go, but I don't think it's much. I think it's just hooking the wires onto their line, which is a transmission line. So there'll be issues there. I don't know,
right,
I don't
understand.
know that much
So
about electricity.
You're waiting on transformers and then just actually attaching to the transmission line to get power to it, down to it, right?
Right. So if there's anything you can do, that's great, but I do know, well, I was not aware of the timing process, or I probably would have submitted these before I assessed the landowners. But Monday was the last possible date. to assess the landowners, and the assessment was filed the preceding Friday. So, I'm not asking for anything because you've not seen it, but if there's any way, maybe you could approve it on condition
Yeah,
that it meets all the.
You got a copy there, just let's look at it here in a minute.
Tom, it was up to 200,000, right? So the resolution, I mean, assumes this up to that amount.
Yeah, up to.
Commissioners,
Notice one's 133 already, that's partial payment for the, part going across the fields and removing the old stuff, so. Whatever procedure's acceptable, I know Patty will give you good guidance.
I think Patty has a comment.
You got a,
yes, I was just going to join in. Tom and I have talked several times over the last few weeks, and so based on the resolution and the money has already been appropriated, it's sitting there waiting, it's ready to make those payments. It's just a timing issue of getting it on a claims docket
Right.
and presented to you today. So the auditor's office has no issue with any of the timing of it. It's just approval, and then it's not officially on the claims docket today that you would be approving. So it would be a separate claims docket and a motion to approve it
At
for
a
the
later
next
date.
meeting.
you guys have any feedback on this?
The council's already approved it and they're taking it out of the riverboat fund.
Right, the money's already appropriated, it's sitting there ready. We just have to have direction from the commissioners to disperse those funds.
That's what you guys,
Has no issue.
this is, I don't have any issue paying it. Like I said, this is out of sequence how we usually do things.
Yeah, that's why I'm not expecting,
So,
I appreciate,
I mean, we usually don't like to do stuff like this, but just under the circumstances, I don't want to have anything go wrong with the levy out there or get off.
well, and the other thing I was gonna draw, it says I certify that they're pertaining to that project on
Right.
there. Whatever
I
that's
think
worth.
unless it comes to hell or high water.
Yeah.
It'd be high water, that's for sure.
Check one of those boxes.
That's what I don't want, that's what, all the, thank God we didn't have a lot of rains. Snow's gonna be a little bit of an issue with the river, but, I think it should be,
Right.
should be pretty minimal, but, hopefully we get this thing behind us.
Also,
Ron, are you
Michael,
comfortable with what's going on?
Yeah, I'm just thinking that on a situation like this, and it's always a timing when you deal with a government entity, but the foundation, the Economic Development Foundation was kind of set up to help handle situations like this, where you could go to Bryant, and if their board approved, get the money cut, and then we could reimburse them if timing's an issue. On this one, it doesn't look like timing's the issue, everything's in place.
We got everything in place, ready to go, so, other than just out of sequence and how we pay bills. but
Yeah,
I don't
I'm
have
sorry
I don't
about
have any
that.
trouble with that, so.
Michael, I'll also add too, just a note for the record that Mr. Graham has assessed the total amount of the 200,000. So these are below that amount.
under, yeah.
So the only thing that might happen in the future is amending that resolution to reflect the numbers more correctly.
Right.
And he and I have talked about that, but until we have those final numbers, there will be no action needed.
Okay,
And one thing I might add, there was a required minimum payment over the 6-year period, and we met that in this first one. So
Right.
in my mind, there's no harm, no
no,
foul
you guys,
on our side.
you guys have done good on that and paid back sooner than you ever expected to, and I appreciate that, and like I said, we gotta keep the levy system in place. We don't need anything else happen out there, and,
No.
yeah, so.
Well, and their board's been kind to go ahead and assess the full amount,
Right.
not knowing if that's what's gonna be the numbers, but for the sake of the ease of trying to assess and keep the record straight, he's went ahead and done that, and so the auditor's office appreciates that,
That
so.
too, yeah. That sounds good. Well, guys, I've got 2 claims before me. One in the amount of $24,813.88. That will be for Duke Energy's part to hook up the power. And I've got another claim here from Carnahan Grain Incorporated for $133,500. And that
I don't
was,
wanna throw Carnahan's under the bus, but if you could at least do the 24.
well, we're here, we might as well, if we're gonna do this, and it's come out of the same account, I would rather just go ahead and get it done. I mean, I
Thank
don't know
you.
how you guys feel about that,
No, go ahead and do it.
and that'd be for the underground power. I guess I'd be looking for a motion to pay both claims, and then have the board president sign this at a later date for the claims.
I'll make that motion.
Got a motion by Nathan Gabhart,
Second.
second by Ron Arnold, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thanks, Tom,
Thank you very much.
appreciate it. All right, you guys have anything else for the board?
No.
Anybody in the audience? Anything else? If not, I'll look for a motion to pay payroll, pay claims, and adjournment.
So moved.
Motion by Nathan Gabhart,
Second.
second by Ron Arnold. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Have a good week, gentlemen.
And two.